what is this business that you want to do? You can't just be like, I'm going to make money. You have to have a, a passion for it, or at least an idea or a mission that you're going to accomplish with this thing that you want to do. So I feel like you're right. The sales is so key. So after we did this year of good work, and then we sat around basically doing nothing while we were waiting for people to call us, I got pregnant, and on purpose. But we decided it was time to start a family, and I was like, all right, I'm going to change my role because we don't need 3 people doing the same thing, and I need more control of my time.
Welcome to the Founder's Journey podcast, where we unravel the life stories of unique and successful entrepreneurs. We will take a deep dive into their highs and lows and over-the-top accomplishments. So get ready for the Founder's Journey podcast with your host, Jimmy Dulambakis. All right, we have Michelle Marks on the podcast, the Founder's Journey podcast. Welcome today, Michelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for being on. I'm excited to have you and to learn your life story and your ups, your downs, your sideways, and everything in between. So tell me, where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
I grew up in and around Los Angeles. I had a pretty typical suburban childhood. My formative years were on a cul-de-sac with a kid in every house where, we ran around knocking on doors. Can so-and-so come out and play? That sort of thing. My mom was a teacher at my local elementary school. And so, I walked to school with my mom on many days. My dad's a doctor, still working at 82, which is amazing.
God bless.
But kind of a, nice, comfortable childhood.
And did you have to check in with your parents, or you just kind of played until it was lunchtime or dinner time and kind of?
Well, I'm old, right? So, back in the late 70s and early 80s, that checking in was not a thing. You left in the morning with your bike, and we did all kinds of terrible, dangerous things with no helmets, and, taking our bikes to the top of the hill, which I think about now, and riding down, but there's no way we could stop, hiking in the canyon, bad things that if my kids did them, I would kill them. So.
Do you think there's definitely the adventure of doing that gave you independence and where you were able to kind of figure stuff out on your own?
Sure. I mean, I think some of it's personality too, but yes, I think that having a lot of what do they call it these days, free range kids or whatever, this idea of being out there and solving your own problems and getting into your own trouble and figuring it out. There was definitely a lot of that.
It's interesting generationally. It goes from parents that were kind of like, oh, where's our kids? Remember they used to have the commercial, it's 10 p.m.
Right, do you know where your kid is? Right.
That was where are your children? Yeah.
But I think when I got older, I'll say my parents were good parents. They were good, still good parents. But as I think the expectations are just so different now. What was a good parent, right? In that time frame was just a very different expectation. I didn't have a program every day to do a million activities. I had activities, but a lot of my time was go outside and play, which I don't think exists today. I mean, I think people are afraid and the world is different. So
I think that the world, yes, there's definitely things to worry about, but I also think a lot of that stuff was around in the 80s and we just didn't know about it, right? Like you heard about the situation that happened,
yeah,
and all of
that
a
might be
sudden
true.
you were worried. I mean, yeah, or maybe it got or we're just more aware. I'm not sure, but I try to tell my kids to send them out and just play, and they come, I'm bored. I'm like, my job is not to entertain you. I'm
Yeah.
here to provide, protect. I have certain roles in this job, but if you're on the beach, my job is not to play with sand for 6 hours straight. I'm gonna build sand castles, but the rest is yours. You got to go venture off and go in the water and play games or create your own games. That's what I did. My parents didn't sit and play with me all day when I was little, but at a certain point, they're like, "Dog, figure it out."
Right.
So you grow up in a cul-de-sac, which is such a great, you know,
America 101.
101, those real estate people, those developers, they knew if they built a cul-de-sac, they could sell those homes for 10% more. Um, and your dad was is a doctor still, 82,
Yep.
and your mom was a stay-home mom, or she worked as well?
She was a teacher. She was a
Oh,
science
right.
teacher.
She's a
Yep.
huge yeah, so
Yeah,
she had the summers off and you guys got to, like you
she
had
did.
siblings or just you?
I have a brother, yes.
Brother, okay. So in school, were you like a good student or did you find yourself like, getting A's or kinda in the middle?
I was like a solid B plus student, I think. I had this subjects I excelled in and the subjects that I struggled with and the subjects I just didn't care about. So that, you get right in the middle. I mean, I was an honor student, it's true. I was in that track, but back in that time, like they tracked you. That was where you went. I guess to be fair, I was a good student, but I have to say my attention wasn't equally applied.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
a classic case of like, well, I can't do math. Like math is, I can't do math. But it's, nowadays I do a lot of math. So, and
Yeah.
you know what? I can do it actually. So
Yeah.
I think some of it is just the way it was taught or what I was interested in, or, well, again, what socially was expected, and where you kind of put your interest.
It
So
could be like it could be just your relationship with math. Like I could not write. My grammar was horrendous, so I just assumed I wasn't smart. So I didn't really try to apply to reading more books. I till this day, I have a psychological block of reading a physical book. Like physical books to me, I can't something about the texture, I don't know what it is, but I can read hundreds of books on Kindle, no problem, right? So I totally get it. And my wife tells me "Oh, I hate math. I hate math." I'm like, "You're a graphic designer. You deal with mathematic
a lot.
scaling and equations." And she's like, "Yeah, but that's different." No, it's
Right.
math. It's the same thing,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
So, okay, so you're pretty good in school. Um, did you have was there one or two people in your life that really kind of like impacted you? Obviously your parents, right? But
For
outside of
sure.
that, was there anybody that kind of like, stuck out or was like a good role model for you?
I was always a creative kid, um, always doing stuff, and, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I always had this general idea that I did wanna work for myself someday, but I didn't know what that meant, and so I think that, there are 2 sort of people, and these are sort of random examples that come to mind right now, but I had a cousin who was a photographer in New York, and, older than me, and, I always admired his, like, boldness to move across the country and to go on his own and to do this creative pursuit and to really, make it in the big city. And, and so I think I sort of aspired to that, and he ended up kind of suggesting this place where I did end up going to school. And, and the other teacher that I think had a lot of impact on me, which is pretty funny because it was not all positive. I had a kind of this high school teacher. She taught English and AP history and English and whatever. I had her numerous times. I was on student council. She also ran that, but she was tough and mean. And so, but she was really smart and just didn't take any crap from anybody. And she really just knew what you were capable of and just didn't give you an inch, right? All the like, I'm gonna pull one over, like she wouldn't have it. And, we kind of butted heads quite a bit. And, I in the end, like, I wrote a paper and we had to put a quote on the front of this paper. And, I put a quote, which I can't remember exactly. It was from Ulysses or Gilgamesh or something. And it was basically like to strive to this, and never to yield. I basically told her to F off right on the front of my paper, right?
I love it.
And,
I love it.
and she called me out in the front of the class and bitched me out and all these things. And, and I was like, "It worked." But it's funny, like, I really struggled with her for a long time, but at the end, I really thought I respected her, that
Yeah.
she was totally who she was. She didn't take any shits. She was just, like, exactly the right person, that was good for me because I was kind of like, I got everybody's number and I'm gonna make it work for me. And she just had my number, which was in retrospect quite interesting, I think, as a formative experience of like, what does it mean to succeed when somebody is not gonna like you're not gonna get away with anything. So
Yeah. That's a great life lesson because later on, it was a continuous battle. It wasn't like 1 week or a day. It was
right.
continuously, and there was
Several years.
several years, and there's much respect there because you're adversaries or whatever, even though she was like
Right.
a
That's
teacher, right?
right. That's
Um,
right.
all right. And then well, you said you were very creative. What did you do creatively?
I did a little of everything. I did acting, I did painting, I wrote a lot of bad poetry in middle school like everybody else. Um, I did all the things. And when I was in high school, and it's kind of hard to even think back right to the 80s, like graphic design was not a thing. I never heard of it. Like I didn't know that was a thing. And so I kind of thought I wanted to do advertising because like that seemed like cool and you could do that. And my photographer cousin suggested a school near where I grew up called Art Center, and they happened to have a night school there, and all these. So I ended up signing up for like a night class when I was in high school, and they had a high school program which I did not do. I did the like full on grown up version at night, and I went to this class, and I was the youngest. I was like maybe about 17. I was like clearly at least 5 years younger than the next person there, and everyone was either in college or professional like. So I felt very intimidated. Um, but I actually had success. And this teacher like called me out. We did this assignment. It, everybody had to bring in like a picture. We had these boards and you had to bring in, he gave you a word and you had to bring in a picture that would make you say the word. That was kind of the concept. And everybody's whatever that you draw it or you're cutting it out of a magazine or whatever you're doing. And so I there's something I can't even remember. I did it. I drew it in pencil, and it was probably like we could barely see it, right? Because that was the idea. I was so intimidated, and I just everything was receding. I was trying to recede, which was not my clearly not my personality, but I was feeling very intimidated. And so you put these boards up on a rail, and the guy walks around and he says, that's a good idea. That sucks. I mean, again, this is very hardcore. No, nobody's getting good treatment here. And he comes and he stops at this thing and he's like, this is a good idea, but why didn't you like make it so I could see it? And so he kind of gave me this compliment, backhanded compliment in a way. And he was like, oh, it's you. Like, I know why you did this because you think like because you're young or whatever. Like, and he just in front of this 25 adults, I felt like, I got called out again, but in a good way, right? In a way that
Yeah.
was like encouraging. And I was hooked. And so the school at the time was really nobody went there from high school. It was people all they didn't have really gen eds. You had to kind of go somewhere else to do that. So, and I kind of wanted a more traditional college experience. So I had a sort of a world adventure of colleges, but I did end up going there, and that's where I graduated from. And I did switch majors along the way as I learned more about what my options were. But
So when you were in senior in high school, is this what you wanted to do, or you weren't sure?
that's what I thought. I didn't know. I mean, I honestly had no idea. Um, It's it's pretty funny, right? So I took this night class at the art school, and I really thought like this is for me. Like I want to do this, and that was my senior year of high school. But I kind of knew I couldn't go there out of high school, so I had to figure some other plan out. And and my dad, who was very traditional, was not supportive, right? Like my kid is not going to art school. This sucks. Like you're going to be a starving. You'll never get it. This is a
Yeah,
horrible
sure.
idea.
Yeah.
And and he was very, unhappy about the whole idea. And I kind of kicked the can down the road because I knew I wasn't doing it right away. But my mom was extremely supportive. So, I had the two. But it was funny in the end to come back around to it. He had ended up having a patient who, I forgot his name, but the guy who drew the Pink Panther, like a famous cartoon
Oh, okay.
guy, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, they're chatting. And my dad says, my daughter, she might want to go to art school. And he wants to go to art center or whatever that is, because he doesn't know it. And the guy was like, that's the Harvard of art schools or something to that effect. And from that day forward, my dad's supportive. So
Isn't
I
it
was like,
funny? Yeah, it's funny that somebody else had to tell him, not his daughter. Yeah.
correct. Whatever I
Yeah.
had to say didn't matter.
Yeah.
but I was a pretty headstrong kid anyway. So I don't think it mattered that much.
Yeah.
I was going to do what I was going to do.
Good, good. And so you get into art school and like what are you trying to do? Like you're just trying to tap into your full potential. You kind of committed to it. But why did you commit to it? Because art school is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of projects. It's
Somebody
it's
who knows.
I didn't go to art school, but I've heard, from others that it's a lot of work. So I
It
was
is a lot of work.
curious. I was curious to see why you took that path.
I've never been afraid of a lot of work. That's the truth. It just was the most exciting path, and it was like I went to a few other colleges first in my little tour to get there, and it was always a thing that interested me. I took I was a good student in college too. I did fine. I took Psych 101 and whatever. I did all the things, but nothing ever really got my interest in the way that sort of the visual arts did. And so I thought I would do advertising, and that's what I went there for. But in the end, I learned about the thing called graphic design, and I ended up switching. Uh, I thought I could do advertising from graphic design too. Like it's a long story about the very specific things you studied at that time in those majors. Um,
Was it called applied sciences or applied design or something?
and no, it's called advertising. And then I ended up switching to what was at that time called graphics and packaging design, even though
Oh, okay.
I'm not all about the third dimension. So no packaging for me.
No, that's good.
So
Good.
very specific. It's a very, very
Yeah.
rigorous kind of, they have like what they call kind of a pre-professional program. I mean, it's kind of glorified trade school when I think about it now, but it was incredibly intense. I went to school 5 days a week or 6, 8 hours a day for these classes. They were like, it's a lot of work, but it was just so exciting. And the people you were with were all so creative and exciting. And it felt just like exactly where I needed to be. So
Tell me about, you said you weren't afraid of work. Where did you learn your work ethic? Like, where did it come from?
probably from my parents, I think. I mean, my dad's always worked like forever. There's some quote that I said when I was a baby, apparently, and my mom had it put on a little like tchotchke from my dad's desk, which is my daddy is a desk. So that's what I said. And she had it put on his desk so he
That's
could
amazing.
remember
I'm always at
that
my desk, so like I feel that's why I'm
you better
laughing.
watch
I'm
out.
like on my tombstone, it's gonna say dad, husband, desk.
Desk. Yes. But, I mean,
Mm.
he was a doctor, he did rounds. I used to take me to rounds on the weekend. I'd sit in the lobby of the hospital while I go see his patients. I mean, it was just like that work was just always part of what he did, and my mom was actually quite interesting too. So she was a teacher, and when I was young, she taught middle school and whatever, high school science and all kinds of different things, and then at some point I don't remember exactly when, she sort of switched gears and she kind of went into business for herself in a way or with a friend. And she ended up teaching at several different elementary schools and kind of became a science resource specialist. And then she and her friend they taught other teachers how to teach science. And they did all kinds of workshops and very interesting things. I got to be her TA, like on the weekends. I would work for
Nice.
her. She'd pay me and I would work for her in her classes and that kind of thing. I mean, I worked from a pretty young age. I was a TA for her. I was a TA in Sunday school. I babysat. I did all the things. I've always been sort of interested in that, although I never kind of put all the dots together until much later.
Let me ask you, when you were a babysitter, how old were you when you started? Do you remember?
Yeah, I probably started at 13, 12,
So
13.
think about that. A 13-year
Yeah.
old kid today is watching a baby, a 4-year-old.
No diapers for me.
Oh, right, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
But yeah,
Oh,
I did
I
watch
don't
it was
blame you.
a
I don't blame
4-year-old.
you. Yeah.
No, I did. I watched some 4-year-olds and yeah, that's right. And I think about that too when I was looking for my kids for babysitters and I was like, do I want a 13-year-old to watch these children? Look, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
It is. It's a different world. Again, back to that.
So you graduate from the school. Is there
Yeah.
anything memorable that happened in college that set you up for your future life?
I met my husband. That was good.
I
Um,
you know, I had a feeling, I don't know why I had a feeling when I asked that question. I was like, why
mm,
do I feel like she's gonna say that she met her husband there? Okay, all right. So it
yeah.
worked out. Okay.
It did. That worked out. That was a good souvenir from school. Um, I met some good people. I and it was a good education for exactly what I wanted to do. And the one good thing, which now I have kids who are graduating college, and I see how hard it is. Like to have, you could do anything. There are so many choices, and they don't know. When you're 18, you don't know, and when you're 22, you don't
No.
know either. But I knew, like, I went to school for a really specific thing, and so there was really just one kind of job I was going to get. I could get, like, the choices were very narrow, predefined by what I studied and how I studied it. But that's all I wanted to do. And so we ended up going to New York after we graduated, and I got a job, which was good. I think I got a job because of where I went to school. Like it opened doors for me. I'm sure the work was good too, but the thing about going to art school is you have a portfolio. You have it again. It's in, can you do it? It's, here's the proof. I can do it. I did it already. Uh, and it made it possible. It made it possible to move here, and then things just sort of worked out from there, I guess.
Okay. Do you so you moved to New York with your are you married at this point or no?
No, no,
You're
we
just
just moved
dating.
dating.
So
Yes,
you
we
meet a
moved.
guy in college, you're like, we're gonna be together, and then you move to New York to start your lives together, which I mean, that's a pretty big commitment, It's hard. I feel like
Who
just to
knew?
right, but I'm saying no, but like in context, like to move in with someone in an apartment, that's like a big step. To move across the country to live together,
Yeah.
that's a big step too. And
I just think we were young and stupid. Like, it's just funny. Yeah, when you say it like that, it's true. But what did we know? We didn't live together. My husband was a painter, and we moved to New York City from Los Angeles, where we each had separate things. He had a studio, and we just put all this stuff in a big pile, and it was shipped to us when we found the world's smallest apartment. And then volumes of crap arrive, like canvases that are 6 feet by whatever. I was like, oh yeah, oh, this doesn't fit. Like we never unpacked. We had like a studio apartment. It was just full of boxes for the whole year we lived there. So I just think you don't know. Some things it's better not to know. You just sort of go and you do and
yeah.
you figure it out as you go
And so you moved to New York with your husband, with your boyfriend, and what do
at
you
the
do?
time.
Like, what's your plan now? What are you trying to pursue? You said earlier that you thought you work for yourself. You kind of grazed off
Eventually, I know
eventually.
I always had
Well,
that idea, but I wanted some experience
where did that seed come from? That you know what I mean? Do you ever think about that?
inside,
Just
inside.
it was just talking to you. It's coming out. Okay. So what did you do when you came to New York?
I got a job. In fact, we came for a 2 weeks trip where I did a bunch of interviews. And at the time, again, the world is so different. I had headhunter, like I had interviews, I got an offer. They said, great, you have 3 weeks to move here. I was like, okay, we'll figure that out. Nobody relocated me either. That was just I just wanted to move. But I wasn't going to be able to move if I couldn't, at least my husband was not getting a job. That was not gonna be in the cards for him. He had a different life plan. But, so I knew I needed to have something, right, that we could count on.
And what was the job? Like, where did you work?
Like, I was a graphic designer. I worked, what's the name of it? I think it was called Wexler& and Partners. Arnold Wexler was the guy, who he has since passed away. But, he had a firm doing financial communications. It's kind of wacky. Actually, this is a great story. When I came for the interviews, this was not the kind of place I wanted to work, right? What 20-year-old, 21-year-olds, like, I can't wait to make brochures for mutual funds. I just can't wait,
Oh,
right?
sign me up.
Right. So I'm doing these interviews, and I did have some interviews with some famous people and whatever, but nobody's forthcoming, and I want to move. Like, I need a job. And so I have this interview at Wexler, and the guy who interviewed me, who did the most of the talking, I met the boss man, but this is like a senior guy there. The other guy leaves the room, and then we're chatting, and we're getting along great and whatever, and it turns out to be his last day. And he's like, "Listen, I'm leaving, but I just wanna tell you, you should take this job because you should take any job. You should just come to New York. Quit." He said, "Just come, and once you're here, you can quit." I was like, Oh, okay. Like, I would never have thought of that idea because that seemed horrible to me. But he was right. I ended up working at 6 months at the first job. It was fine, but I met a woman at that job who was giving me a different job at a different place that sounded much more interesting, and so I followed her to the other place. That's just what happens. So there was something to this idea of having this little insight given to me in such a random way, right? He's like, I'm not actually telling you this, but I'm telling you this. Like, just take the job, take any job, go where you want to be, and then you'll figure it out. Which is, again, do the thing, don't think too hard, which is
Don't
in my life,
overthink it. Yeah,
right?
that was the issue for me is I was always overthinking things or waiting for validation from others. I was waiting for others to tell me, which is so interesting because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm always like jumping into things like, like I'm jumping in the pool without the water. Like, oh, we'll figure it out. But then parts of me is like, oh, this is a little too much. I need someone to tell me I should do this. Right. And
Sometimes you just need permission. I think you just need
yeah,
permission from
yeah.
somewhere, the universe,
Yeah, somebody and really I just needed my own permission to
right?
do it, right? And I was kind of scared. I have some similar stories of working in city. I was probably 22 and started a company called To Be Exclusive. It was like an online concierge company where this was before online. This was like 2003 to 4 or something, 20 something years ago. And our idea was to go to the hotels, go to the limo companies and buy the excess inventory and then create packages, experiences. So if it's Valentine's Day, we would do the day after or the day before and buy it at a cheaper price, but then market it as a Valentine's Day or like a night out or whatever, right? And we got a office in 34th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. The
Hmm.
building is still there. All the other buildings have been torn down. It's this one little 9-foot story building. It was a jewelry company. We came in, it was carpeted, and there was just literally a mirror along the entire one side of the wall. So like while we were working, we're looking at ourselves in the mirror of our office, right? Um, and we needed desks. So there was a liquidation event. Some big law firm was liquidating all their furniture and stuff. So we showed up. Probably had like $200, $300 at the time because we
Got
were
some
broke.
desks.
We bought these like massive, big black mahogany desks, chairs. The guy was just like, take that, take this. We don't care. Now the problem was we didn't have a way to get it to our office because it was only 2 blocks away. So we got a dolly, and we were dollying these massive desks down. I can't remember. I can't believe we did this. But anyway, when we left the office, we told the landlord they can keep all the furniture because we didn't want to deal with this
Would you bring it
furniture
to it?
anymore.
Right.
Okay, so
That's
you're in New
good.
York, you work at this company,
Yes,
you meet somebody, right? Which is a beautiful story of network, right? You met another person at the job, they told you about another job, you left, you went
correct.
to that job, and what
Yeah.
happened?
So that job turns out to be the place that was the last job I had. I worked. So this is a company that I joined. It was about 11 people, and I came in very, very junior. And obviously, I'm 6 months out of school. And but it was very interesting firm. Two partners, and so about 11 people. Did a lot of corporate communications and annual reports specifically, and I thrived, promoted, whatever. And I met another woman there who was really a mentor to me for quite a long time. I mean, I really wanted to be her. I thought she was amazing. And during my time there, they made her a partner, and I kind of got to talk to her about what that was like and what that experience was. And I think I worked there, mess it up, 6 or 7 years total, but or maybe 5 years. I don't know. But over the course of the time there, the timing is important. So it is now the late '90s, and the .com era is in full swing.
Mm,
And so this small firm that was little family, great people, everybody was amazing, is growing like gangbusters. We're merging and buying, and we're going to be the next big thing. And now it's 400 people with offices all over the country, and a big Omnicom investment and all kinds of crazy stuff happening. And so in the summer of 2000, and this timing, if you had got to put your way back machine hat on, we have not yet, that everything is just still almost there,
Just
right?
ridiculous. Like
It's
everything's so crazy.
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
We have stock options in this
Valuation.
company,
Yeah.
everything. And the company decides, so we had a few divisions at this point, and the company decides that they're going to stop doing all of the kind of corporate communications work that I did and people I worked with did. And annual reports and whatever, lots of different stuff we did. We also did web work at the time, but like they had a whole separate group also doing that. And they were like, you're all going to go be web designers. We're all in, all internet all the time. And so two people I worked with, we kind of were like, this is not right. This is not right. Something is not right here. And why can't we do all these things? Also, our division was the only profitable division in the whole company, because he said nobody cared if you actually made any money at this moment. And so we decided to go for it, but we didn't want to tell anybody. So we sort of made these plans on the side, and we started. So they literally told a bunch of huge clients who we had all been working for the last couple of years that they were not going to do their work and that they should go find other help, which is actually insane. But so we're like dialing them up, and these are people we know, and some of them laughed because they were delusional and thought that our bosses still did all the work day to day, like people. So, but enough said yes that we were able to start this company with no money. We were fully funded by our clients' first payments, and we also were smart about it. So in September, we incorporated, September 2000.
When you say we, who's included in here?
So I had two partners. I founded the business with two partners. All of us were designers, all of us. So the first client, we're actually at a corporate offsite with our company. We're in Las Vegas. We're in a rental car in the parking lot of In-N-Out. And we get the call from the first one to say yes. And they're like, of course, we'll come with you. Thanks. That sounds great. It's real. Like it's happening that moment. And so we decided to stagger our exits, and which was smart. So I quit first. And then my second partner quit. And then when the last partner actually got laid off, because at the time, right, this whole thing, so we incorporated in September. I think October is when the bubble burst. And so everything starts going to shit. And so we're like ramping in. We have enough clients. There's only 3 of us. Like we don't need that much. We have an illegal sublet apartment to work out of. Like we're very low overhead. We're like making this whole thing work. You don't need much to start this kind of business. We bought 3 computers. That's all we needed. And we had, the client money to do it. So it was good. And we kept we didn't take money. Like I wasn't getting paid by the other company. I quit first. Then the second guy we got paid once we quit. And the third guy didn't quit until he actually got laid off. And then he got severance, which was just amazing.
Oh, that's the
and
best.
so we ended up with like many months of cover. Like we had a lot of things go our way. I mean, that was bad, but for us, it turned out to be good. I mean, a year later, that company was gone. Completely gone and absorbed into some other company, and most everyone we worked with was let go, and all this, all the awful things that happened at that time. But we had kind of stepped off the ship at the exact right moment, and it was very validating, right? And in a way, one of my old bosses, the original 2 guys that hired me in the beginning, was like, "Oh, I wish you'd told us what you were doing. We would have set you up." I'm like, that was not worth the risk to tell you what we were doing. We decided to go on our own. But he referred us another client, like amazing, right? Good stuff. Because in their little moment, they didn't want that work. So for us, it was an awesome, awesome way to start. And it was a lucky beginning, very opportunistic, but.
So you were what, 28 when you started your first business?
Yes.
And
Yes.
is it the same active business since then?
Yes, it is.
Oh
We are
my
25
God.
years old last year.
Wow. Congratulations. 25 years in business. That's an amazing accomplishment, And
Especially since we didn't know anything. I mean, less than nothing. 3 people who went to art school started this business. We do this first amount of work, We deliver great work. We're like, we're so good. We're so great. This phone's going to ring off the hook. That is not how it works, as I well know now. But we were really, really young and stupid, and we just were like, why aren't people just calling us? Because we just did this great work.
Let
It's
me
funny now that I
let me
think
ask
about it.
I wanna get your feedback on something. There was a
Yeah.
young one of my nephew's friends contacted me. He wants to be an entrepreneur, and he wanted to talk to me. So I spoke to him, and he said, "What should I do?" And I thought about it, and I said, if I was you, the one thing I would do right now is go get a sales job and learn how to sell, right? Like, because the other stuff you can learn, but sales, like, you have to be in it. It's like, learning how to communicate with the client, expressing the details of the project, the timeline, all that stuff. You got to learn how to sell. Do you think, do you agree or disagree with that?
I mean, I went to school of hard knocks, so what do I know? But yeah, I think that's what I taught myself. So it's kind of crazy. I can't. I'm just so what I do is connected to what I have always wanted to do. I do very different things today than I did, but it's funny to me. Like being an entrepreneur is not a thing in my world. Like, because I don't know what that means. Like you have to do a thing. You have to have
Produce.
a you have to what is this business that you wanna do? You can't just be like, "I'm gonna make money," you have to have a a passion for it, or at least an idea or a mission that you're gonna accomplish with this thing that you wanna do. So, I feel like you're right. The sales is so key. So we after we did this year of good work, and then we sat around basically doing nothing while we were waiting for people to call us, I got pregnant and, on purpose. But we decided it was time to start a family, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna change my role because we don't need 3 people doing the same thing, and I need more control of my time." And so I said, "I'll do all the other stuff." And I will contribute wherever I can to all the things, obviously, but I'm going to take on this business development thing and I'm going to take on being our accountant or whatever. I mean, I did everything else, everything. And so and it's hard to remember because there just wasn't the resources that there are today, right? There
Yeah.
was no LinkedIn, there was internet, but it just wasn't the same thing. And I was just so in my own little world, like the idea of reading a sales book never occurred to me, which I know is ridiculous sounding, but it really I was just like looking around and seeing what people did and talking to people, and then I would just try stuff. And I would, okay, I'm going to send emails. And, we had some documents from our old company, and I'm like, oh, they sent notes that kind of sound like that. I'll send notes that sound like that. And I would try that. And I'm like, oh, nobody responded. That didn't work. Let me try something else. So it was really just like try, try, try. And, that's just how we learned. That's just how we learned it all. And it worked out.
Also, like, I feel like maybe the stigma of sales, being a sales part of the business is something that's like was kind of not frowned upon, but just different. You're a creative person. You're there to create and produce. And now you're like, I'm gonna do sales and I gotta talk to the client. Like, you know what I mean? It's a different part of your brain, really, right?
Yeah.
So
There were some newsletters that were for my industry, that weren't really about sales, but it had that as a piece of it, and it was much more about, um, owning your expertise
ooh,
and not selling anything really. I still don't think I sell. I don't think that's a great model for being somebody who is essentially selling expertise.
yeah,
So it's more about consultative sell, more about talking to people, some free ideas, like, just having a conversation. People like you. You're like, this is what I think we should do. This is how we're going to do it. And then they're like, oh, yeah, let's do it. And so some of it is just about access to have those conversations because once you have access, then, and so some of that for us ended up getting a few referrals. Once you do a good job for somebody, they always know somebody. And, we did all kinds of things too. We did random jobs that today wouldn't fit our model, but when you're starting out, you do whatever you got to do
you
to
do
get
it
it
all.
going.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a guest on the show that said that he stopped. He was a consultant. He stopped charging based on time, and he started charging based on his expertise.
Yeah.
or
That's right.
change it
We don't charge
yeah,
based on time either. It's a losing proposition, especially with AI. It's a totally losing proposition.
yeah. So, uh, could you talk a little bit about being a mom and an entrepreneur? How did you balance the two, or how did you like? What was your mind frame throughout? Like, how did you juggle everything? Really?
You just do it. My husband's unbelievably supportive, I would say. And when things started going well in the business, he shifted and worked part-time, which helped a lot. So we had to kind of reverse roles, which, yeah, I think it's extra hard when both people work full-time.
Yeah.
Um, but I still made the kids a priority. I always did. It's part of the reason, I tried to make it so that I was still taking part in their lives and doing lots of that emotional labor, which is, you know, you can read lots about that, but I wanted to, right? I wanted to be the one making the doctor's appointments and going with them and whatever. So, we shared parenting really equally. We have a very, and when they were really young, he did more than I did. That's to be fair. Um, but I made it a priority to be present. And it was helpful that I didn't do a lot of travel and I didn't do, that kind of the stuff that makes it really hard. But one of the good things about being your own boss is that, like, no one yelled at me if I wanted to take a day off because of whatever reason I wanted to. I wanted to go to the school play or I wanted to go talk to the second grade class about whatever, I have to do all of that. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, I do feel like I work a lot, but it's time blocks that I just move around throughout the day. I shuffle them, and
yep.
sometimes things get, monkey wrenches happen. My wife is actually a graphic designer, so she has an interesting story, but now she's a freelancer, working for herself, and it's cool. It's really like sometimes she'll try to explain things that she's doing, and I'm like, she's like creating packaging for like some brand in like the UK. I'm like, I don't even know what the program I'm looking at right now. I don't know what you're doing. So there's definitely a different part of the brain that's working on that side. Could you talk about like being partners with two other people for 25 years? I mean, that's it's amazing. Like, how was there any type of, and I know you started off, you were young and stuff, but like, did you guys ever build out any like kind of framework of like how everyone's going to work? Or did you all just keep working and just pushing like the whole time? Like,
I thought about this a little bit, and I think in some respects, like my former bosses vetted us for each other, right? Because they hired all three of us, and in a way, we all fit their model, and that was kind of an interesting thing. The you know, I think we did everything our own way, right? We started off everybody equal, like, and that's it. It didn't necessarily end, it wasn't actually the workload wasn't necessarily that way, but it was okay. Like we all just agreed. And we just agreed that this was how it was going to work. And I think because we were truly values aligned, and we all cared about the same things and we all um we weren't gonna make a, like, federal case out of anything. Nobody was unduly focused on kind of the wrong things, and everybody had a good long run of patience for everybody else. And, there are a lot it gets very interesting. The 2 guys I partnered with, they were a couple for a while, and then they weren't a couple, like, that's a whole thing, and, my husband, he now works for the business. He's not a partner, but he does now work with us too. One of my partners retired last year. So there's been a lot of shifts, but we were partners for 25 years, which is highly unusual. And we
yeah.
have never had a dispute. We never had a dispute. So I don't know how you pick for that. I don't know how you screen for that other than like to to be really sure your values aligned, because that's the most important part.
Yeah, that's what I'm gathering here. As I'm interviewing more and more entrepreneurs, I'm learning like trends that I'm seeing, or mindsets, and like a lot of them tell me their partners had the same values at them, even though they're different ethnicities or different culturals, whatever. The values were the same, and that was the
Right.
baseline for them to do business together, right?
100%. And it's hard, I think. this is where like Silicon Valley model where they're like, I'm looking for a co-founder. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know how you can do that because you're really like literally getting married to these people and you're going to spend all your time with them. And you really have to know somebody. So, I mean, I also had the luxury of working with them for a couple of years before we went into business in this other organization. So
Yeah.
it it's complicated, but it like there was a little bit of kind of testing the water first, and everybody gets along. There
Yeah.
isn't a thing.
There's also has to be respect for everyone as long as everyone's
100%.
respectful. And it's interesting. I mean, if you think about it, there's three of you. So it can't be a tie if there's a vote, right? So like
Right,
it's got to sway one way or the other. If each person's setting in a vote, I mean, there's no 50-50. It's 2/3 or 1/3 and that's it. And then
right.
you got to live with it and move on.
And we
Uh,
really never got, I mean, I have to say, which is insane, but we really never got to a place where we couldn't create consensus anyway. Like, I think the third person might have been like, but it was probably our level of risk aversion was also kind of gradated, right? Most aggressive, middle ground to least risk tolerant. And I think all of that worked in our favor. Like it made us not, we were probably too conservative along the way, if I had to say. But I think having all of these things it all created balance and it worked out.
this is great. I love stories like this. Okay, so tell me about the work that you did. What type of clients did you have, and what type of work did you do? Anything that stands out that you want to discuss?
So we have always worked for the same type of clients. The work we've done over time has shifted. We started out doing a lot of annual report work and corporate comms work. Um, for Fortune 100 companies. So this is why some of them laughed at us, right? When you call up a big company, who I won't name names, but and you say, I'm a 28-year-old person over here, and I've actually done the entire project for you for the last 3 years. And they're like, no, you didn't. And you're like, actually, the guy in the name is on the door is golfing, like with your boss. He's not actually doing the work. So that was kind of an education as well to like, what do people really think? But some people really knew, and they knew that it would be great. And so we had a pretty great roster of 5 clients out of the door, and today we have shifted along with corporate communication. Now we do a lot of sustainability and impact work. There are no more annual reports, although we still do some a little bit. We do a lot of sustainability reporting. I talk about we are communicators to those who are most invested in the way that you operate. Your stakeholders, kind of partners, customers, investors, supply chain, all that kind of stuff. We are not marketers in the traditional sense. I like to say we don't sell things. We sort of build trust and reputation, and that's where I have always lived in the work that we do. So that kind of thing is right. And we still have a roster of a lot of Fortune 100, Fortune 50, Fortune 500, big names.
Awesome, awesome. Tell me about where do you see the future with AI and everything going? What do you think?
I
Like,
wish I knew. We're actively working on it and experimenting with it, and trying to figure out. I use it daily in my life. It's very, very helpful. It's like having the world's best intern to do things. Tell me about this website, or tell me about this thing, or I'm going to talk to this company. Tell me about them. It's great. I think that lots of our clients don't love it and have a lot of policies around it. So we're trying to sort of navigate making us better at our work and not violating all of our, agreements that we have with these companies about what we can do with their information. So we're not on the bleeding edge at all, but I think we're trying really hard to push how we can work more efficiently and how it can help us deliver better. So
yeah. I was listening to a podcast. They were explaining actually like the privacy of documents and such. So, for example, let's say a client has like a PowerPoint about a new product that they're going to release, and you plug it into Chat GPT or
yeah,
something.
don't do that.
Well, right. Well, I'm saying you tell ChatGPT, look at it and like tell me how to
Right.
make this better, or where can we fit? And then all of a sudden now that agent, that model has access to that. And then, how do you prevent
Well, you
privacy?
have to turn off all the training. That you have to do if you pay
Right.
for it. and turn off all the training. I mean, that's our default position. We're not going to use any public models. We're not going to do, we're not, and we have some paid accounts that we're doing, and we're experimenting with the client information for us, not for deliverables,
Yeah,
but
yeah. No, I'm
how to
just
be smarter
curious.
about it.
It's like
Yeah.
this is like a whole new thing. It's going to change so much, right? And hopefully change it for the better. We'll see. But all right, so you I guess I wanted to know, like, if you ran into your 20-year-old self,
Mm.
what would you tell her?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, it's all gonna work out. It's gonna be great.
Don't worry so much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of the idea of being a little bit of a stress case, right, is what pushes you to do good and to work hard, and so there is, like, some level, you could say, of that baseline. You could call it fear or stress or, um, dissatisfaction, whatever you wanna call it, that when you have that as a human being, like, you're like, I could do that better, or I could do that different, or I could do it in another way. I could be try this or that. So there's something to it in my mind, this idea of, like, having that little bit to push you forward, um, because I think that that is what makes for success, right? If you're settling or you're saying good enough, like, that's not going to work. You need to want to have that little bit extra. That's what makes the difference between clocking in at 9 and clocking out at 5, and forgetting about everything for the other half of the day, and being the one who's, like, sitting there and, like, going, "Ah, I should have thought of that thing. I'm gonna," like, I can't turn it off a little bit, which, for better or for worse, is, it is that, like, a little bit of a drive thing.
Yeah, because I'm by nature, I'm like a problem solver, so sometimes I'll go to a anywhere, mini golf place or restaurant, and I'm just, like, watching the operation. I'm like, "Ah, I don't know why they have that over there. They should move that over here." And it's like, and sometimes I can't just relax and eat, like, dinner. I'm like, "What?" I'm always looking around. I'm like, why is the
I'm not
waiter?"
trying to solve everybody else's
Yeah,
problems. I'm
like,
only
why is
worrying
the
about
wait
mine.
the waiter's got 20 tables? There's no way. That's not efficient enough for them. They need to be, I'm just, like, thinking too much, right?
Yeah,
But when I figure stuff out, I'm like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And sometimes things are just subconsciously working
right.
in the background where one day you're just like, "Oh, there it is." Like you said, "Let me write that down." I have a question. So what would you tell, is there any mindset framework or thoughts you would tell a young or new entrepreneur if you met them and they were asking you advice about getting into something new?
I mean, for me, the biggest thing is just don't be afraid. You have to just try stuff, and you're never gonna know everything. Like, you just gotta do it. You just have to do it, and you can figure out so much stuff, and today there's so much support. I mean, I wish I had AI forever. You can ask anything and get an answer. Even if it's only half right, that's better than no answer at all.
True.
The, that there's just so much out there, and I think that, there's always this idea that you need to know so much. Um, like, "Oh, I can't do that yet because I don't know X, Y, and Z." But I think that you can do it, and it's not a fake it till you make it thing. It's just like you're gonna learn. I think that one of the things about me, and I think is part of the culture of the company that I lead now, is just an always learning mindset, and that is so important because the world is never stopping and things are always changing, and I think that is also that, like, never at rest. Again, I could take a vacation, but I mean, like, your mind is always going like, "Oh, how could I do that? How does that work?" Or, "What if I did this?" Or those kind of things push you to try new things, and it's okay. And as long as you're open and can learn, and learning from other people or hiring the right person who's gonna teach you something, like, these are really important parts of it. And in the beginning, when you're not hiring anyone, you're doing every job, including writing the checks and taking out the trash and, like, whatever else has to be done. There's benefit to that. Like, you're learning all the things that need to get done and how and what's really important. And, oh, I spent all this time trying to whatever, but like, oh, the super simple way was just as good. And now you know something. So I just learn, try.
I wanted to ask you because the last two questions I asked, there's been correlation between just going for it, trying, right? Um, being confident in yourself and learning, right? To me, those things are all led by failure, right? And when I say the word failure, some people have
Yep.
a negative aspect to it. But I think failure is a teacher, right? Like you try, it doesn't work, you try it again.
Right.
What's your take on failure? What's your
So, I mean, I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had any major flameouts, but we've had tons of what we around here call learning experiences where it didn't go our way. I mean, again, like for out of 25 years, I feel like we really know what we're doing maybe the last 10, you know? So we had all this time where we were just trying stuff and like, oh, it didn't work. Well, let's not do that again. Like, it was just about, it is trial and error. And it's just, the word failure is such a big word and it feels so like, but it's really just learning. It's just a learning experience. And so as long as nobody died and you're not bankrupt, great, move on. Like, you know
uh,
what I mean?
yeah.
So,
I think that the word itself, because for me, failure meant that I was a failure. I was bad.
right. Sounds
I was
terrible.
very terrible. Because I think our generation, it was all about that, right? Oh, you
Right.
failed math class. You're an idiot. Whatever. There was always this like bad. But then we've basically trained a lot of new generation kids to not take chances,
Right.
right? So they just do what's comfortable, and that's a scary thing because how do we move ahead as entrepreneurs, as people,
Mm.
without learning.
What you said reminded me of something. I can't remember where I heard this, but it was, I think it's really true that, kids today don't get hurt physically. There's not a lot of broken bones. Like growing up, people got hurt, they did whatever, they fell down. Like today, the kids are not so much on the physical injury, but they all have psychological injury. Like they're all in their head, their anxiety and depression, and they're worried about it, everything. It's got all this stuff. And I thought that was such an interesting observation because there's something about this idea of trying and failing and you fall down. Ouch. Okay, you scraped your elbow. Like a month later, you forgot it ever happened, right? That there's something nice about that is freeing, where I think if you internalize everything and everything is too the bar is too high, I can't do it. If it's just everything's in your head, then you don't ever take a chance. So I think that there's something to that idea of how we raise kids today and what the expectations are as well.
Yeah, I agree. And on that note, my son was very like, got hurt. Ah, this hurts, that hurts, And then I signed him up to karate and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And the first couple sessions were like high impact and he wasn't used to it. Now he's no problem. I see him, it falls, he gets it, blocks his hands. I always tell the kids, it's not about you falling, it's how you fall. I go, if you fall, you got to put your hands out. You got to anticipate the fall, which psychologically is like life, right? Like you're
Right.
learning to fail and you're anticipating the failure of how you're going to learn from it. So, all right,
Yep.
Michelle, this has been great. Anything you want to leave? Any last thoughts or anything you want
No, I'm good. Anything you
to?
want me to talk about?
This is yeah, no, this is what wealth. Your story is fantastic. I'm so glad that I was able to interview you. This has been great. So much I've learned, and also I feel like you probably enjoyed this a lot. Just kind of
I did.
thinking
It's fun.
about, this is good. But
The
anyway,
childhood
Michelle,
angle, I wasn't expecting that. So
y-
thanks.
y- thank you so much, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks a lot.